Okay, welcome back. I hope you liked what you just saw. What is on the program now is that, or listen to, is that Søren will give you some examples on business models, and afterwards I think we should just have a short discussion on how can you actually use information like this that Michael was giving you, and also how can you use what he was saying in relation to TEMO course. So we will have a little discussion or talk about that afterwards. But first, it's Søren showing some examples.
And Kasper, would you like to change to you have a channel 7 now? It's there, great. Because we had some excellent questions about, well, isn't it easy if you have a fabulous product to make a business model, yes? What is then actually the problem? And what I would like to show you here, that it's not only about the product, it could be other stuff within the building blocks that are excellent and that actually leads to a fabulous business model. So here's some examples. If you take the IT company first, for instance, SAP. You all know SAP, yes? What is actually
no?
Okay, it's an ERP system. You have an enterprise resource planning. So the idea is that you actually integrate an IT system that are going to be the central or the
data backbone.
Yeah, and also the pivotal point of all your activities and operations, because it's actually organized like that. Yes, so you have all your key data there. Any one of you know what is actually the business model of SAP? Why do they actually have so much success? Because you can find other ERP systems that might even be better. Let's have a microphone here.
I know they have a lot of like subscription stuff.
They have a lot of subscriptions.
So you subscribe to their service and they take care of whatever you need.
So it's like one-stop shopping. You will get service all the time.
And they have a lot of different things, so when you need a different service, you can just add that to your subscription and it.
That's part of it, but you still have to sell it first, yes? And you can say if you have a lot of service, that's after sales, so you can actually keep your customer, yes? But you have to make the first sales. And how do you think they do that?
I don't know.
How are they actually selling their product? We have another idea here. I would like to involve you, because that's much more exciting instead of me just talking, yes?
Well, I could suggest that they might give away educational software in the league that they are, of the software that they are
you should keep in mind that it's actually a German company, so you still think they will give anything away for free? Any more ideas up here? Yes, if you look, you should be actually looking at them and not at me. Here's another question.
I just wanted to say, advertisement, they are very good at making themselves a name.
Yeah.
So people know them, so they will go down to see it.
So that could be a point too, but you know, if you are going to do a lot of advertising, you're going to spend a lot of money. So you still actually need to earn some first, yes? I'm just seeing if I can trick you a little bit. One more question, and then I will try to tell you my perspective on it.
I'm not sure, but it could be that they are first going to their customers and ask them, like, what do you need? Like, what is at the moment, like, not working, or where you would like to have support doing IT? It's just an assumption.
So it's still like a service issue like you had over here. What they are doing actually is that they are having a lot of key partners. Almost all Java management consultancies in the world are officially SAP sellers. And why is that smart? That is smart because when you have to implement an IT system, what happens then? Everything is actually going to fuck up, yes? So you can do a lot of consultancy for a lot of hours, sometimes for a lot of years. So if you look at all of the big consultancies, they're actually selling SAP because it's so nice for them to have the job afterwards, yes, to actually implement this system and to train the senior managers and so on. So in my opinion, it's actually the key of the success of Java SAP that they have actually an idea of these key partnerships. So they don't have to sell them. They actually don't have to sell SAP at all. They can actually leave the job to the consultancies. Yes, it's a very smart model. We had a comment on that. Yes.
Yeah. So why don't all their competitors just do the same?
Because they are.
Or what distinguishes SAP?
You can only do that as a first mover or have a superior quality, yes? Or you should give more in commission than the others.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what you can do, yes?
But then again, commission requires initial capital.
Yeah, but of
they
course,
are first movers.
Yeah, and of course they have to fight now to actually keep that role, yes?
Yeah.
But at the first place, it was a very smart idea, yes? Let's take the next logo, the Rolls-Royce, and here I'm thinking about the engines for airplanes and not the cars. Have you heard about the fantastic business model of the Rolls-Royce? Yes, you have, so perhaps you can tell it.
Yeah, well, Rolls-Royce, they are known for not ever breaking down. Right, that was once a motto of theirs, that a Rolls-Royce car never needs repairs. So they repaired for free in some cases. Well, some jokes say that they did. So instead of selling jet engines, they have decided to get paid for every hour that an engine does not need repair. So in that way, they make money on their own original idea that turned into a joke. So they have turned the joke around.
You can say that, and it's actually quite clever, because if you look at it, nobody really needs an engine. As you need to have an engine because you want to go from point A to another point B, for instance. Yes, but the engine in itself is not really interesting. So they have to look at themselves from another point of view, saying what are actually the pain of our customers. They want to make sure that the airplanes can go from one city to another without stopping, because it costs a lot, yes, to actually have a plane in the hangar and not flying. So they actually saw and say, well, we have a high quality product, so we actually would like to go into this and actually take some of the risk, saying you're only paying if we're flying. Yes, so you pay per hour flying. That's very smart. And you could do the same with a lot of other companies. For instance, you have factories. Who would like to have a cement factory? It's not interesting in itself. You want to have some cement, yes? So you see, if you think like that in a lot of the production companies, you might perhaps go and change your business model to something more smart and clever. Then we have the Apple versus the Nokia case. Any of you having a Nokia phone? Can you please show it? Then I would like to ask you, how much within the phone is actually produced by Nokia, you think? Themselves, more or less. Do you have a guess? Come with some guesses. Almost everything. And some of you have an Apple phone, and please, if you have, let us see it. How much within that phone is actually produced by Apple? Nothing, almost nothing, and almost everything. And what does that mean? You have to have a lot of core competencies within one organization to make the phone yourself, yes? A lot of organizational capabilities, Whereas if you're only designing and doing the marketing, that's only 2 capabilities. And then you have this ecosystem of a lot of sub-suppliers that would love to be part of your success, yes? So you can pressure them and push them and ask more from them, and even perhaps say, well, we're not going to pay, we're not going to pay the price you're asking. You can have this. So that's actually, if you look at it and actually tell a short story, that's a big difference from actually doing everything yourself. Yes, having a lot of competencies that you have to control and manage, instead of just having a few competences that you're really good at. Let's take the last example, the 4 cars. What are the similarities between these 4 brands? Audi, Seat, Skoda, and Volkswagen. Yes?
As far as I understand, they are all owned by Volkswagen.
Yes, that's one thing. And how about if you look into the production?
They have a lot of similar components.
They are actually made on one platform. You can make 4 cars in one platform. That's bloody smart. Yes? And then you can have some finish, you know, in the end. Yes? An Audi looks perhaps a little more nice than a Skoda. Yes? And you can sell it for more. But if you look into the parts, almost in some cases 80 or 90% of the parts are actually the same. That's bloody smart. Yes? So again, you have to be quite creative, and it's not only about having a product. It could also be, as here, the process of actually making your product, or looking into what are you actually delivering to your customer. What is the customer actually willing to pay for? What is the gain? What is the pain? Instead of being too obsessed, you know, by yourself and your own perspective on the world, try to take the customer perspective instead. And especially engineers can do that, and you will get a lot out of it. So that was just a few examples on how you could actually organize a smart business model. I hope it worked. Any comments for that? Otherwise, it's Sarah now.
Could you, do you think you can put them into the canvas to point out where they belong?
Well, as we can try. If we take the 4 brands, you would look at the key activities and the key resources, yes? If you look at Apple, you would look at the key partners, yes? If you look at the Rolls-Royce, it's something about the customer relationship you're going to have, yes? And the same and if you look at SAP, it's actually the channels. So you have some key points, or the so-called epicenters of your business model, and that's very important.
If you look into Rolls-Royce, you should actually be aware that one of the key activities is actually to have a team which are able to move out to the customer and do a repair of the engine. And you have to be out there very, very fast, and they have to have a team which actually have all the competences needed to fulfill the needs which they might not know when they're getting out there. So having one of the key activities is actually to develop teams which are very qualified in repairing engines. So it suits into the canvas model.
Great. Then it's you, Sarah, and I'll pick up the toolbox. You'll have it in a moment.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just start by asking you, and I'm not really sure whether there's actually sound on this one. Is it okay down there, Kasper? Yeah, okay, good. I'll start by asking you, what did you think about Michael's talk to you? Was it useful in order to get a better understanding of the business model canvas and how to use it? How a practitioner is using this in real life? Yes, we have a comment here.
I think it was useful, but it was a lot of information. It was difficult to pick out the key information, but useful, yes.
Yeah, good. I'll try to support that part in just a few minutes on what I think you should draw from his speak. And another comment?
I also think it was useful, but sometimes it's hard to, or the business model canvas needs a lot of, you need a lot of experience in order to create a good business model. So it's a little bit difficult for us, who is very inexperienced in this area, to actually use it in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another comment there?
We learn a lot and read a lot about this visualizing and using the business canvas to show stuff. I think it would be helpful to actually show examples of that while we are talking. Having a business canvas, put in digital post-its showing what's actually going on and visualizing it instead of just talking.
Yes. So a little like what Søren was doing just before, saying where this was, well, his main point, where do these different business models actually differ? What is the special issue about them? Like you have with SAP, this is the channels, which is the consultancies, or you have Rolls-Royce selling the hours. So they have changed their relationship with the customers. So actually looking into more specific examples of how to use the canvas. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Great, thank you. What I think that you could take from his speak, now I need the toolbox up here. Is that ready? It is. And if you go to the canvas with the 4 key external forces, Søren. The one with the key external forces on. Yes, this one. Because I think a lot of Michael's speak was actually about this, giving a lot of interest into what is the environment of the business model. What is both the ecosystem and what is the business environment, and how can that be understood? And that it is really about giving a lot of interest to the mega trends he was talking about in the market. What are the big changes in the environment for their customer? What could be the disruptive technologies? If you think of, you have a model in the book with some circles within it where you can understand the business environment as well. It's a little similar to this one, but there you can actually say on these macro forces, being that technology shifts can happen very, very fast, and when they do, they actually have a tendency to really disrupt or ruin an industry very, very fast as well. You can see that with actually some interpreted that as what has happened to Nokia, that you have a smartphone technology and a lot of users going into this type of platform, and that they didn't keep up with that trend, and now they actually, or basically out of the phone market, or at least the smartphone market, and where you have suppliers like Apple taking it all over. So this is, and it goes really, really fast, and you can also see that with other competing technologies. You have this classic example of Betamax and VHS from the very, very old video standards. I don't know, maybe you're actually too young to have even experienced a videotape for real. No, you have, okay. Not that young, okay. Good, so you know what I'm talking about, but way back you actually had several types of videotapes, and they couldn't go into the same machine, of course, because they didn't have the same size. And that's also the same. You can be in business if you're not really belonging to what is becoming the dominant standard. He was also talking about the ecology of businesses, and that was about giving interest into the customers. And if I can just have the customer value design.
This one?
Yeah, this one. You also have, this is about really understanding, giving a lot of thought into to the customer. Who are they? What are their what are the jobs that they would like to do? What do they need to perform in order to be successful, and how can you as a supplier support them? What are their gains and what are their pains? What is important for these customers, and really try to get an understanding of them. And that's both you yourself as consumers, but also businesses as customers, that you can make this kind of analysis for, and then make a fit. with the value proposition that you are offering. And I noticed that Michael was saying, well, business model generation or business model canvas isn't really for everyone, because it can generate some controversial questions for the customers or for their clients. So they had to be prepared for actually going into this discussion of how do we develop our value proposition in order to fulfill the jobs of the customers and relieve their pains and supply their gains and so on. So that was actually what he was saying. You have this model for very, very simple framework actually for guiding that conversation. Then he was also talking about how to use the canvas, and you can use this canvas in a very concrete or specific way, looking at the different building blocks, as how you were asking, how do we actually describe the different blocks for the different cases or customers, clients that we're working with. But it can also be a way of framing a conversation where you can talk about these different blocks. How do we understand these the content of the different blocks, and that it is actually, I think he was answering to one of the last questions on how to handle the disagreements. Well, let's just have all the opinions on how do we understand the value proposition here? How do we understand the channels? How do we understand the key partnerships or key activities without actually having to agree upon them? But just put up all the different understandings of it, and then afterwards take the discussion on how can this actually go into some sort of consensus. But instead of starting by saying, no, that's not true, that's not the way I see it, I see it like this, and of course you will have to obey to that and so on. But actually come forward with all the different opinions and use this as a way of what could you say, actually get a higher understanding of what the business model canvas is about. He was also talking about this as a process where you continuously evaluate. Take into consideration the new knowledge that you get about the environment. Take that into consideration when you talk about the canvas. This is maybe more in a practical way, but you can also do that now that you are at your second case this afternoon, and when you're going to revisit these cases in 3 weeks, you will have some more knowledge, and maybe go back again and see, do I still agree with the analysis that we made today or last time on the first case? So think of this as a continuously process, not something that you're doing today and then it ends. And also when you go in maybe in your future and work with business models, that this is something that is a never-ending story. You can continue along the way. Last point. Yeah, that was actually about the process, that you can put this into a process and use it like that. He was actually pointing out some steps. That first step of a process using the canvas was to look for the different options. Actually try to put this into an ideation process where you brainstorm, you mind map of what are the different possibilities. And he was also naming different techniques that you could use to generate the canvas or to fill it out. And then he was talking about assumptions. Again, the assumptions, as we also talk about here, that you have to be very clear on your assumptions and you have to validate them. Go back and see, are these assumptions still relevant? Do we need to change them? Do we need to refine and so on?
Can
and
I
then
add
again,
something about that, Sarah, because often the assumptions is actually about some of the 4 key external forces. Yes, you often have to make assumptions about that if you don't have the full info, and then you should be aware if anything actually changed there. You have also to go in and look at your business model to see if you have to change that as well. And furthermore, when you make your canvas, sometimes it might be hard to fill in 1 or 2 boxes. And if that's the case, you're actually on the road to something quite interesting, because often it's actually the block that are hardest to define where you find most of the magic. So you should consider that, and you can never have a business model canvas with only 8 or 7 bricks. That's a no-go. All 9 you have to fill out and understand. Because, as he also said, it's very much aligned. Yes?
I would say that especially goes for practical life. When we are talking about the cases, especially these 4 cases, you might not have information on all of them given in the case, but then you have to fill it out or make some assumptions on what would you assume it is. Yeah. Do you have a question or a comment, Laurie?
Actually, I wanted to make some comments, but did you finish the section on this?
Yeah, I would just come with your comment, otherwise I would ask for some, if there were any questions. Yeah.
Okay, because I actually had the comment from the comments that you made about the response to to Michael's talk. And one of the things you were talking about, there was a lot of talk, and it was hard to kind of digest it. Well, the first thing is, fortunately, it's live streamed, so you can go back and you can look at it and deconstruct it. That's what I would really suggest that you do it. Also, after you've worked with it and you have more of a context, what you didn't realize is that this was, like we said, we had someone who was booked to come on the show and they couldn't attend, so we were doing this on the fly. That is why you didn't have slides, because we had some things set up, but we couldn't put it into play. But that is really excellent feedback. We were talking about it ourselves. There are some resources that we will make sure that you can get. I have written down some of them that you can use to actually work with the canvases like you were talking about. So when you're working in your groups, you can interact with them. Also, when thinking about the canvas, the woman who was talking about, she was the first one to talk and was saying, we don't know so much about the canvas. Well, this has been used in so many different contexts, and I think first you have to start with your own mindset. You don't have to know anything to use the canvas. It's so simple, that's why it gets integrated. So just relax, use it as you can, read what it says, work from there, and get the information, because essentially what it is a documentation. It's just so that you aren't working in the dark. Everybody in the team knows what they're talking about. As Sarah, I'm not going to reiterate what Sarah and Søren just said, but before you sit down to actually work the canvas, you're working with this outer environment, and that's where you're looking at trends. So you can look at cultural trends, and you can find information about that on the net. You can look at consumer trends. You can Google trends for the area that you're looking at. You know, if you want mechanical engineering trends, do that. So I would suggest you look at the broad picture and then dive into the canvas. So it gives you a context. Does that help? Yeah? Good. Thanks.
Yeah. Then any final questions or comments? No, think of the canvas as you can use it both to diagnose. There's a lot, actually several of our models you can use to diagnose what is the problem or what is the challenges in the case that we're working with. But it can also be used for, if you look for the misalignments within the canvas, to find out where are the causes for the problems, and then you can use it again for setting up solutions. So it goes through the whole engineering framework.
And I would like to add some, hopefully, inspirational. I think this is only the 3rd week, yes? And all of this stuff is almost new for all of you, so be a little confident in yourself also while you're actually training for the coming weeks. You will actually become quite good if you work hard. So keep up the good work.
And we know you will. We have seen this so many times. You'll be amazed how much you are able to do in 4 weeks. We are.
So we actually believe in you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions here in the end?
Yeah. Just going to close out.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much also for all your good questions. I would say it's really great that you're engaging in this.
My final comment is it's called a business model canvas, using that art metaphor. And for any of you who have ever looked at a blank piece of paper to do something and had it evilly stare at you, if you had to write or draw, think of it in that way. it's instead of looking at a blank piece of paper and having to just come up with something and being intimidated by the giant momentum, monumentous trouble of looking at that white canvas, this is a start. This is a kickstart to your ideation process, to your problem-solving process, or to however you want to use it. But it's just to give you a framework to work from. So do not be intimidated by it. It will not bite you. You can use it to your advantage, and like I said, we'll get the resources for you. Have some really, really good resources that will be helpful for you now and forevermore. I don't know why I have so much feedback today. So if you don't have any questions, I hope that you enjoyed this. Remember, we would really like, now we're at this point, give us the feedback. Is it helping you? Do you like the style of the TEMO show? Do you like, the kinds of questions that we're asking? It's your show, so give us some comments that we can use, preferably, what do you call it? Constructive criticism, not just negative stuff. But feel free to come up and talk to me or any of the team and let us hear what you have to say. Okay? Thanks very much and have a good day.